Hey everybody, welcome to Russo Works. I am Russo and I do a little bit of work here and there. Today I'm making Gallows. Now I'm making these Gallows for Malifaux, but you could use these for any game that has 28mm miniatures or miniatures that are about that size. Here you can see all of the pieces that are going to make up the internal structure. If anybody wants the blueprints that I made for these, they're not great, but I can supply you with those. So we'll get these out of the way real quick. All right, so we're gonna hot glue all of this stuff together. It's gonna be a little bit messy, but it's all going to end up hidden in the end. Now, there are two of these rectangle structures that we're going to build. One is just gonna sit on top of the other one. You'll see how that works later. Basically, we want gallows that work and gallows that you can get inside of. All right, so here it is put together. You gotta make one more of these. We'll say that this is the bottom one. The only thing that's really important is that the outside perimeter of these things is the same. So if you set one on top of the other one and it sticks out a little bit, you can sand that off, it'll be fine. You're going to hide all of this internal structure anyway. So more hot glue and you'll have one of these again. Moving on. Okay, so we have two now. This is really exciting. You can see they're the same width, they're the same height, I guess you call that height. And one of these, like I said, just stacks on top of the other one. I know it's sort of a mystery right now, but the next thing we're going to do is bring in these little side bits. These are for elevation, and here you can see about how tall the building's going to be. I've got 5 of these. You'll see why I have the 5th one here in a second. For the actual gallows portion of the gallows, we've got a bunch of teensy little pieces here, little crossbars. I don't know if this is how the actual structure of gallows works, but it seems right to me. So this is how I'm doing it. This is going to sit on top of the top part. We've got these little skinny sticks. These are our less important structure. Some of these are going to go sort of as baseboards, and that's going to give us a way to attach the slats for the sides. And these go inside of the top part, and this is what's going to support our trapdoors and the mechanism for our trapdoors. It's not incredibly sophisticated, it's mostly hinges, but you can make it all out of wood. We got skinny sticks, we got whatever these square craft sticks are, and we're gonna use some toothpicks. It's not rocket science, it's not crazy stuff, so that and that. Some extra bits. We're gonna work towards this. Don't worry about it right now. I'll show you. Here is the whole thing sort of put together. You can see it's a little revealing. There's these side walls that are just going to get slats. You can see this. The slats are going to cover up this top portion, so it will just slot into top. Here's where the trapdoors are going to go. I'll put a little lever on this side, and with any luck, that will open the trapdoors. We'll have to see. So, all in all, it's coming together. Now, here you can see I've put some of the slats on the sides. These aren't exactly even at the top. The next step is to add in the slats to the top, and these are going to cover up the edges so you won't notice that they're quite so uneven. We've got to build a door there. That won't be too difficult. Here on the back, you can see what the inside of the wall looks like. It's a little messy, but again, it's not a big deal. You can use the hot glue sort of as a mortar and fill in some of those gaps. Yeah, that's kind of a tight fit, but you can sand down the bottom corners of that, and it'll make it a lot easier. You can see what we're going for here. There's a little bit of a lip, and the top just sort of keys down into it. Yeah, it's definitely shaping up. Not too tough. Not too tough. Take this stuff out of here. So I guess the next step for us is going to be making something out of this top section. You can see we got room here in the bottom. There's quite a bit of an overhang. The skinny sticks are skinnier than the not skinny sticks. So we'll just work forward from here. It won't be that bad. It won't be that bad. We just gotta keep pressing on, everybody. Now, finished bottom of the building. I need to put a door on there. You notice I've put a slat into the top of the door, and there's also a slat at the bottom, and that's going to keep the door from falling in. Once there's a base on it, it'll keep the door from sliding out from underneath. And I'm just going to put a crossbar on there, and I think that'll work pretty well. Now, here is the top portion of the gallows without doors in it. You can see I left a little hole there for the lever. It's going to be a really simple mechanism. I can show you that here in a second. But here it is on the base. We gotta make all these doors. Doors. Making mechanisms out of wood is not fun, especially considering that the wood will swell, but not a huge deal. Here's some miniatures for a size comparison. A blighted niece shepherd. A cairn wraith. An accretion servitor. So we'll just get this out of here and move on to the next step, which is going to be building the lever. Okay, so some of these parts I made up, and some of them are just scraps. This is going to be the basic design for the trapdoors and the other door. It's just a palette, basically. Here you can see what the lever looks like and the little thing that the lever moves. The lever has a toothpick through it. It's just been whittled down so that it looks like a lever. And when you push it to the side, these little slats pop out. So with any luck, the trapdoors that we put on will be held up by those, and when you push it to the side, they will have enough clearance to fall down. Also, you'll notice I've drilled little trenches into the top of it. It's pretty exciting. So for the trapdoors, we make a slat just like we did for the other door. We'll have a couple of rounded off bits that will glue to the door, and then some bits that will glue to the bottom of the top part of the structure, and a toothpick, and this is what'll make it all work. Alright, so here you have the top with the doors. You flip the switch and everything falls. Pretty nice. There you can see the lever works. You can see I put a couple of hooks here on the door. This is a very basic door design. Alright, now for the other side, you see how I did this? They got a little play left and right. Really, that's not a good thing. They tend to get stuck. Any amount of weight on the top of these will make them fall. I'm a little concerned. I imagine when I paint them, they'll probably get stuck a little bit. The mechanism might get stuck, but I know any amount of weight on the top of these, and they're going to fall. And, it's just an embellishment. Next, we'll have to figure out how to make some nooses for this. That's going to be an ordeal. And we'll have to make a stairwell, about 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch platform with stairs that run down from that. They won't be in scale, but it'll be fine. Okay, so here you can see where I started work on those stairs. It's the same basic design as the rest of it. I didn't put a thick post on the side. We're basically just making picket fences here and hot gluing them together. There's only 3 stairs here, so it's not exactly to scale, but this will make it so that anybody that has thick decorative bases on their miniatures will still be able to walk up the stairs. This will accommodate, 30mm bases. You could probably fit somebody with a 40mm base onto the stairs, but not comfortably. And this is the small piece that will make it match up with the rest of the roof. I realize that all of this isn't square, but we'll get around. Okay, there are some stairs put on there. That's exciting. There you can see the little slat. Take that off. This keeps the door in place. The door just sort of fits in that hole, and then you put this over it. It's a pretty simple door for a pretty simple building. I think the mechanism on the top is complex enough to make up for that very simple door. Now more miniatures. For size comparison, we get that shepherd back, we get that wraith back, gotta get that servitor up in there. We gotta get that servitor. And how about a little Skittles Eldar? Yeah, I didn't paint that. And down it goes. So as you can see, working pretty well. Move this out of the way. Next step. Okay, I have glued this to a base. This particular base is a cake board. It had some silver stuff on it, but I peeled that off. It's basically thick cardboard. I don't know what you'd call this. Light density fiberboard. And you can see I've sort of scraped the edges down here. I want them to have a little bit of a bevel. And that's a pretty simple process. You just have to take any sort of hobby knife, an X-Acto, and run it along the edge. Here I've left an edge untreated. I have my X-Acto box cutter thingy, and I just scrape it along the edge. This stuff comes off like no one's business. You're not going to be doing this for an incredibly long time. Just pretend that you are sharpening your knife on a bit of leather, except it's not leather, it's cardboard, and you're making a mess, but it's fine. It's all for the craft. It's all for the hobby. It's gonna make this thing look nice. It's going to make it not have square edges, and that's really what we're looking for. We'll have a nice beveled edge to glue some sand to. Why not? Alright, so, and you just go around all the edges, and it ends up looking pretty decent. Pretty decent. You're going to have some of these flyaways, but you can take care of those. Back of the knife, and eventually you'll be done. Okay, you can also see that I've painted the inside of the stairs black, so I won't have to do that later. I'm going to be using normal Games Workshop modeling sand. You can use any sort of sand that doesn't have big chunks, or if you want big chunks, you can use sand with big chunks. Okay, so here we have white glue, but this white glue, I put water in it. It's a little too watery. So how about this? This is the white glue with the water, and I've also mixed in some baking soda. You could use all sorts of things, flour, just to thicken it up. This is one thing I'm going to do. Here sped up, you can see just gooping the goop into the center. And what this is going to do is once I get all this goop in here, slow and steady wins the race. Once I get all this goop in here, I'm just going to pour sand in it. And fairly quickly, it's going to turn into almost a clay. And once it is mostly dry, you can do a lot of modeling. And I want it to look like this is the built up dirt and grime inside of the building. There's lots of footsteps and other nasty little bits in there. I'll just mush it around. That's pretty close. And now sand. I'm using a ton of sand. If you want to use a ton of sand, you probably don't want to use Games Workshop sand. I'm just using this because I have it, and eventually I need to use it all. Otherwise, I guess I wasted some money. Okay, you got it. Shake it around. You can come back later and scrape off the excess. I'm going to seal this with some more liquidy glue, but we'll get it real nice first. Get it nice. Now before I pour in that liquidy glue, I'm going to clean all of my homemade glue paste off of the edges here. It's unsightly. I don't think that the dirt and the mud would get up on the sides like that, so I'm going to scrape it off. You make a mistake and scrape off some of the sand, well, there's loose sand on the top. Just give this thing a shake when you're done and all will be well. Pour in the liquid glue, roll the liquid glue around. It's sort of like rotocasting. You're gonna have to pop out the door. I mostly kept that in there so that under the door wouldn't get a bunch of goop, because then the door wouldn't fit, and that would be bad. And you can come into the doorway and scrape some of that off as well. I couldn't see that from the inside. Okay. Now I guess we have to let that dry and then worry about the outside of the building. Okay, so that's more dry, but not all the way dry. Here I'm taking a skinny stick and I'm just poking in little footprint holes, and basically I want this to look like it's been well used. Maybe sometimes it gets wet inside of this building and then people walk around in there and then it dries up and their footprints get preserved in the dirt. You can use the same method if you want to put tank tracks into some ground or anything like that. And let's get a close-up real quick. Here you can see nasty pitted dirt. It's still shiny. There's still some liquid glue in there, but that'll dry up. And yeah, uniformity is your friend. You just want it to be seemingly random and uniform. Right now for the outside, I've mixed up some more liquidy glue and just apply some of it with a brush and then put sand on. Now, you can't take as long for this. It's going to dry out a lot quicker. But it's the same basic process. Now, the one bad part about using a cake board or any kind of cardboard for a base is if you put this much glue on it, it's going to get wet it's going to seem really, really wet, and you're probably going to have to let it dry for days. Maybe a couple of days. That might be over-exaggerating a little bit. But the nice part about it is all of that wetness means that your glue, and by extension all of the stuff that's stuck to the glue, is going to really be stuck to the base. So, you know, like Santana said, life's a game of give and take. We'll just fast forward through the rest of this process. Come back, fix the edges. Pretty simple. Save your extra sand. Okay, so here we have all of that. It's dried up. Looks pretty nice. You can see there's a bit of water staining in there. You're gonna want to let this dry for a while. Let me get my little door. You may have a little bit of trouble fitting your door in. You can always sand the top or the bottom of the door if you are having trouble. But, you know, now that there's a base on here, that door is going to have no trouble staying. Alright, so yeah, there is our door. We have access to the building. We can get on top of the building. Okay, so nooses. This is the part that's going to be a little bit of trouble. But you can see I figured something out. Here I took some yarn. It's kind of ugly yarn, but you can see I soaked it in glue. I tied little nooses, and then I tied those around the structure. And there it is, finished. Not painted because it's still a little wet, but finished. It's quite the attractive building, I think. You got these little nooses. I would never actually use them, but I decided to put one around the Skittle Eldar's neck just because. Maybe I'll repaint that guy later. But for now, down he goes. And that is it for the build process for these gallows. If you'd like to see them painted, then go ahead and like the video, subscribe, drop a comment. I would appreciate that. That would be cool. Until then, this is Russo with Russo Works, signing off.